Earlier this week, there is a news that grabbed my attention. Okay, so it's about Windsor, Ontario man. So he crossed the Canada-U.S. border. When he returned, he was fined $6,200. Okay, so what has happened? Okay, so this is a essential worker. He travels between Windsor and Detroit every day. So he's qualified under the essential worker category. So he doesn't need to show the COVID negative test every day when he returned from work. However, he was on a trip, a very quick trip to drop his aunts. Okay, so his aunts were visiting him and his family for about a week in Ontario. So when they returned to the US, so yeah, so this man just drove them over, right? So no problem to enter the US. Then he came back after an hour. So the border agent uh, asked what he did, then said, okay, you need to self-quarantine, you need to have a negative COVID test, which he did not have, right? He said, I'm an essential worker, so I should be um, exempted. But the agent says, sorry, you are not on a trip going to work. So you have to follow the rule and have a test. Then it seems that this man did not get test. He just entered the border because he's Canadian, right? So you have the right to enter the border. However, there's more than $6,000 ticket issued to him. So he's trying to fight for the ticket, and this makes the news, right? So on the here's a Virgin Radio. Uh, okay, so this is important for Canadians because on November 8th, the land border between U.S. and Canada will be reopened after 18 months closure. So between U.S. and Canada, there are thousands of kilometers the border, and many places they are unchecked, right? So the border is always open. People can go in freely, you know. So especially for Canadian, they went down south to make some shopping, watch a game, like I did in February, uh, February 2020, right? So because in Toronto, the Maple Leafs game was so expensive, right? It's ridiculous. So, but when they were playing in Buffalo, so my family we drove down there. So the ticket is much cheaper, right? So then you fill in a tank of gas, which is also cheaper. You buy a little bit of merchandise, you know, then come back. Right? That's very normal before the COVID. However, with COVID, it's unprecedented, right? So which never happened before. The border was closed. So now many people they are very eager to go back, right? For Canadians, so they're snowbirds, they want to drive to their homes, maybe in Florida, Arizona, California. So some people want to go there shopping for Thanksgiving. Okay, so this example remind people. Okay, so I want to highlight this. This is very important for you guys who want to go south. When you go down south, so it should be relatively easier because the US is very open. So you just need to show your vaccination record. But when you come back, when you're coming back, you have to remember to do that COVID test. So which costs you roughly, I think, $250. Okay, so many people did not realize that. They just thought, okay, they can go there and come back. So I want to share my personal experience as an example because I was on a business trip so earlier this week as well. So yeah, I work for financial service industry, so I looked it up before I went down there. So it should be qualified for uh, essential worker. Okay, so so I took a chance, right? So I went there for a meeting. So then I traveled back during the same day. Okay, so the agent on the Canadian side saying, oh, okay, uh, I'm not sure if you qualify for essential worker because you could work remotely. Okay, so that's his argument. So then he wrote something on the yellow sheet, right? So he asked me to drove to the just outside the agent's office, right at the border. So it was near the Rainbow Bridge, Niagara Falls, Ontario. So another lady agent came out, asked for my story. I gave the same story. So they both walk in the office. Then after 5 minutes, so two ladies, they came out, right? So they introduced themselves. They are from the public health department. They say that, sorry, so you have to get a test. So because the border agent, they do not think you are essential worker. So now you have two options. One is you continue to drive in Canada, right? So you're Canadian, I cannot stop you. You have your right, but you will receive a $7,000 fine for breaching the COVID requirement, which I was shocked to say the least. However, there's another option. The lady said, you can go back to US and test. I was panicking a little bit, right? Because I didn't know where to get test. So the other lady said, "Oh, actually, it's very close. There's a place they can do the test usually within. The result is out within an hour. It's just near the border." I said, "Okay, so do you have the address?" Sure, they gave me the address. So then I just well, I think the decision was pretty quick, right? So the fine just too big to absorb, right? So as a regular guy, so I just turn around, drove across the bridge. The U.S. border agent asked why you are here. I said, oh, I try to return to Canada, but they asked for a negative test. I have to do it here. They said, okay, go. Then this address they gave me, I put in the GPS, right? So I drove around. I was expecting to see a sign, a big sign, like at least it's a clinic or something, right? So when the GPS told me it's there, I didn't see anything, right? So it's just a parking lot. I go around, so it's a one-way street. I go around circle and come back. So I go to behind the building. So then the GPS keeps me directing me to the front of the building. So I had to do a couple of loops. Then I realized that okay, so the place actually is just outside the parking lot. It's a very small place. There is a container. Okay, that container is their office. Then there's a tent beside the container. So there's a couple of people there. So that's where people get tested. So that parking lot is very small. So besides the container and the parking lot, there may be, I think, 7 parking spots, very tight. Okay, so I managed to squeeze in. So there's a couple of people already waiting there. Look at the plate. Some are Ontario plate, some are New York plate, or from some other states. So the process is actually pretty smooth. It's you register everything, register online, right? Give you a website. I went back to the car, register. So then do a test, right? So then it's 200, I think $250. They do not accept cash, so you have to use your credit card. Then it takes 10 seconds, right? So they get the sample from your nose, each side 10 seconds. Then you sit back in the car. So at that time, so I need to refill this Arrive Can app, which is easy enough to use. Then about half an hour, so receive a text and email saying your result is available. So I went out the car, asked for the people to give me a print copy so I can show the agent at the border. Yeah, they went into the container, literally it's a literal container, and then get print out, hand off to me. Okay, so I off we go. I drove across the bridge again, so I have to pay another $4 $4 US, or you have to pay $5.25 Canadian. It's way expensive than 20 years ago, right? So it used to be like $1, I think. Anyway, so I was actually asking about people, the money, who collect money, so on the US side. Because sometimes they collect on the Canadian side, sometimes on the US side. I think in that day it was on the US side. I said, oh, I usually expect more Canadians, once a border opens next week. He said, I'm not sure because the people still have to pay this $20 COVID test, right? So yeah, I said, yeah. I just found out that. So, okay. So I drove again back there. So this time it's different agent. So they ask, what do you do? So then show me the test, right? I hand off the paper. I said, okay, off you go. Because I got my vaccine, so then I don't need to self-quarantine. And I got a negative test, right? Which is very important. So it's the same story here, right? So I think the lesson is that the border agent, they have authority to determine whether you are essential worker or not. Okay, whether your trip is necessary or not. I think I respect that actually, because they are tasked to guard the border, right? So it is a very serious pandemic. Canadian I think generally have a less severe pandemic because of these controls, right? So not as extreme as, for example, in China. So, but much tighter compared with the U.S., right? Because in the U.S., so essentially, I think nobody wears mask anymore, right? So only, for example, in Starbucks, only the cashier they wear mask. Probably I think that's required. All the patrons, right? So they don't wear mask. they just chat, right? So I was wearing my mask. I was being careful. So I think the agents, they have the authority. We should respect that. But the message here is that for my fellow Canadians, if you want to cross the border for shopping or anything, you have to remember you have to have that negative test, which is almost $250. So if you want to get that test done within Canada, you can do that. Actually, I looked it up before the trip, so you can do it in the Life Lab, right, in Ontario. So you can make an appointment, go there. It's good for 72 hours. Okay. However, if you are shopping, Thanksgiving is coming, U.S. Thanksgiving, you have to remember that there's still there's a limit on how much you can buy. All right. Otherwise, you still have to pay. You have to pay the additional tax, and now you have to add this $250. So cost. Okay. So don't forget that. So if you're only there for a couple of days, actually, I'm not sure the savings is big enough to justify that that cost. Second thing is that at least in my experience, that there's no Nexus lane anymore. Okay, before they used Nexus card, right? The special lane, you just swipe a card, you go in. At least on that day, early this week, there was no Nexus lane on either side. Either when you enter the US or when you come back, so there's no special lane. You have to line up. So you can imagine that on November 8th, so a lot of people are eager to go there. There will be a long traffic line. So just to be careful, be prepared to stay there for a long time. Okay, so yeah. So the third thing is that you should always have a backup plan, right? So you should know where to get a test, where to get a COVID test. So actually, it's a pretty good business idea, right? So they just set up a container close to the border because they know that people will be turned back by Canadian agents because they don't have this test. Okay, so actually there's a there's one more container in another block, but that one I'm not sure it offers the PCR test, because Canada requires the PCR test. So that's the reason I think the other container, they don't have any business. So the public health lady actually directed me to this one. So they do offer the PCR test. So just want to highlight this, share my experience with the fellow Canadians. So be prepared, make sure you have the test when you come back, build that into your plan. So you don't want to get a ticket like $6,000, $7,000, right? So okay, so if you do want to travel south, I wish you all the best. Enjoy your shopping, so get on the US land. So meet with your friends, family, do your business, right? So all the best. Okay, thanks for listening. Okay, bye.